Welcome, I'm Paul. This little guy here is Dave, my co-host. Today I have 12 Glitch in the Matrix and paranormal stories for you. My favorite one, X marks the spot. Let's get to it. Case file number 3365, written by Explicit Flucklings. Benches I'd never seen before. Okay, to start, I am a 25-year-old female. I enjoy hiking trails. I wouldn't really call it hiking because it's Florida, but you know what I mean. I like to walk in the woods. I recently moved to a new apartment in September, and this last month or so, I've been trying to find good trails for me to walk. I finally found one. I took my boyfriend's dog with me the first couple of times I went. It wasn't a hard trail, but it was long. It's surrounded by trees and a lot of squirrels, but it also can lead to a nice lookout over the marshland. Very pretty. Anyways, this past Sunday, it was a little chilly and had been drizzling on and off all day. My boyfriend and I had gotten into a disagreement, so I decided I needed to take a walk. The trailhead is about 15 minutes from my house. It wasn't far at all. When I arrive, I put on my shoes. I hate driving with shoes on. Put on my jacket, and I always carry a knife on me. You never know what could happen. My headphones were on, and I set off. Everything was normal, and I knew exactly where I was at and where I was headed. There is a fork in the trail with a sign and a map letting you know that you are here, and this is where you can go. I even took a picture of the map just in case. I decided to go right. I wanted to go to the lookout over the marshland. I succeeded in reaching the lookout like normal, and it took about 30 minutes. Remember, I said it's a long trail. I spent maybe 20 to 25 minutes there just listening to my music and looking around the area. It was still drizzling, but it was somehow relaxing. I needed it. Now this is where things get a little weird. I'm a conspiracy theorist, and I do believe in glitches and portals and all that jazz. But nothing has ever happened to me directly, not for it to really settle in as a belief, until last Sunday. Have you ever heard that if there are trees perfectly in line across from one another on a trail, that if you walk through them, you are walking into another dimension or something like that? Well, I've always made the joke when I see trees perfectly lined up on a trail. Hey, look, a portal! And no one really gets it, but oh well. It's always been on my mind since I've learned about it. Basically, I just never took it seriously. On my way back to my car, I walked down the same exact trail I had taken to get to the lookout. I was dancing to my music, and I had transparent hearing on, so I could also hear the rain hitting the trees. This time, I noticed trees that were perfectly lined up, and I walked through them, mumbling, "Portal!" and thinking nothing really of it. I do it all the time. About 15 minutes into the walk back, I needed to use the restroom. I'm not opposed to squatting, so that's exactly what I did. It was the woods, and I was alone, so what? I took a right off the trail, maybe 10 feet, got behind a tree, and did the do. Walked back to the trail the same way I came, and kept going in the same direction I was going, before which would have been turning right when I came out of the woods. I kept walking in the same direction, but when I started to pay attention, everything was different. There was a bench off to my left a few feet ahead that wasn't there before. Then I noticed the leaves were a bright green, and they weren't like that before. I kept walking, and I noticed a bunch of benches along the trail. There were weird-shaped trees I didn't recognize, and I honestly just kept going without stressing too much. I didn't pull out my phone and check because I was confident when it came to that trail I knew all of it, or so I thought. Eventually, I came to this little boardwalk. I'm assuming the ground got super wet there, so they had to build the boardwalk, but still, I'd never seen it before, and that's when I started getting freaked out. I do like weird things, and even though I was a little sketched out, I still kept walking, taking in my surroundings. I walked for another 20 minutes before I ended up in a parking lot for a separate trail that I had never seen while researching trails around me, and I didn't know existed. I finally pulled out my phone and looked at my maps. I had walked 45 minutes in the opposite direction. How? I don't know. I went the same exact way I took to the lookout, and now I'm 45 minutes away from my car? I stood confused for a minute or two before I decided I just had to walk back, check my maps to make sure I'm going the right way, and just hope I make it to the other side. After 45 minutes of walking, I finally made it back to my car. I've been thinking about this since it happened. The feeling I had in my body while my brain was trying to figure out where I was at. Confusing, but calm. I didn't feel in danger. I've only told my best friend about it, and she agrees that it is weird, because I'm an avid trail walker. I don't get lost on trails. I know the rules. I follow the rules. So how did I end up on a trail that I didn't know existed, while walking back the same way I came? Can someone make any sense of it? Am I crazy? So I do know when you're in a forest, or anywhere in nature that doesn't really have any landmarks or things to identify as different, it's very easy to walk in circles or just get lost. But given this is a trail, and you're experienced in wandering around, it does seem less likely that you simply got lost and didn't know which way you were going and found yourself 45 minutes away in the wrong direction. If you went back the same way, which I believe you would know which trail you just came from, then yeah, could it be a simple space-time portal? Yeah, those are all over the place, usually on roads, but not exclusively. I think my favorite story involving that is simply when that one guy was walking on his sidewalk in his neighborhood, took a step, and then in a frame cut almost, he was at his dinner table with his family eating, if I recall correctly. That is a space-time portal, with the time component entwined as well, as space is, which is hard to go in. I won't go on a tangent on that, but yes, they're all entwined. And yeah, don't feel awkward going to the bathroom in the forest. Just peeing is not a big deal, I don't think. It's only natural. Case file number 3366, written by Yamez MTB. Not a drone, not the wind. This happened an hour ago in Brisbane, Australia. We, partner female 49, male 50, and two sons, 10 and 14, had been at a friend's house for pre-Christmas dinner and a swim. They only live a few blocks from us, and we were walking home at 10 p.m. with our dog. We were only 100 meters or so into our walk when all four of us heard the sound of what I can only describe as a sound a dual-control stunt kite or foil kite makes while driving into the wind, but directly above us. I fly these with my boys sometimes on the beach. It's the best I can describe the sound of this wind that sounded close, maybe 10 meters or 30 feet or so, directly in front of us. I looked up expecting to see a drone of some sort, because there was no wind and it's a suburban area with overhead power lines, so it couldn't be a kite, but there was no sound of motor or propellers, which on a drone are a distinctive sound, and no lights. It lasted long enough for all of us to look up, searching for the source of the sound. Maybe 7 to 10 seconds, then it stopped. None of us saw it. It didn't recede or move away. It was just there and then it was gone. I thought at that moment that maybe it was a sound of wind through the overhead wires, but the weather was completely still, not even a hint of a breeze. I gotta say, I had goosebumps as the four of us talked about it, after the event, trying to work out what had just happened. Case file number 3367, written by Totorez HKA Gaming. 40 minutes on a pirate ship. After a long night of hanging out, me, 16 at the time, and the two other friends, 17 and 16 respectively, who I will name S and K, decided to go to a playground. It was around 2300, so 11 p.m. at night. There was nobody there, and we had this whole thing to ourselves. Let's just say we were overjoyed. We kicked it off by kicking a football around until we had the great bright idea to play some hide and seek. The first round went great, but the other left us quite literally shaking. Now, the crux of the story is only properly understood if I explain both the perspective of myself and K and S. After we had decided that S would be the seeker, with 1 minute of counting time, I and K ran off to our spots. We were both running in the same direction, but he turned before me to a little playhouse. I decided to hide in the hull of a make-believe boat, where I proceeded to lay down and wait it out. After what felt to me like around 5 minutes, I started feeling sore from lying down on a slightly moist carpet-like ground, and I moved to the top of the boat, where the wheel is. Keep in mind that this whole time, I'd heard nothing but the sound of waves and a light breeze. I was then shortly found by both of them, both rather confused, because they had looked here twice already, which I quickly denounced as I was right below this place, and had heard nothing. I saw Kay looked at me like I was insane. "Where did you hide then? I only moved like 30 seconds ago?" Both Kay and S peeled their eyes at me, as if they just witnessed a murder. The following description is Kay's accounts of events. Paraphrased, square brackets for clarification. "Right after the round had started, me and you ran to the boat, but you didn't stop at it, and instead ran past it, where the end of the playground is. Then I hid in the bottom of the boat, on the right side, port, under a bench. S started seeking where he also went towards the boat, as that is by far the centerpiece of the playground, and yelled out, 'The One Piece! The One Piece is real!' A reference to a show about pirates, which made me laugh, and so he found me. We started looking for you then. We spent at least a whole 40 minutes looking for you when we even searched outside the playground. By the way, another thing I forgot to mention is that this whole locale is surrounded by a eucalyptus forest, and at night it is incredibly eerie and uncomfortable to be there. By then, we had already started yelling, 'You win! Give up already!' When we had finally almost given up, you were up here. I felt a wave of dread cover me, just as they probably did. Supposedly, me and Kay hid in precisely the same spot, and witnessed each other go elsewhere. Now, dear listener, you might be saying, 'Oh, they're just playing a prank on you.' But the emotions both they and I experienced were so visceral that I doubt it could be fake. Just in case, we all had the same idea to not only pinky promise, those are a very serious thing in our friend group, but also to put it on all of our families, which is, dare I say, the very top of echelon when it comes to I am telling the truth, and is also a thing we take utmost seriously. There seriously are layers to how messed up this is. Not only did we hide in the exact same spot, but additionally I somehow did not hear S's apparently really loud exclamation, and my perception of time was completely messed up, since I was alone, whereas they were together most of the time, and to them it seemed like I entered some sort of alternate universe for a while. To them the most likely explanation is that I'm some sort of doppelganger. A month after that, I could feel an aura of distrust and unease whenever I talked to them, though this has since gone away. We still joke about me being a skinwalker nowadays, though. I used to play hide and seek all the time as a kid, and I'm very introverted now, but when I was a kid, would I say extroverted? I had a lot of friends, let's just say that, and we would often gather around in playgrounds, actually, but not just playgrounds, in our homes and stuff like that. And yeah, we'd just hide. Sometimes you find the weirdest spots as a kid to hide. What was the weirdest place I hid in? I think an air duct, but not those tiny ones. It's more like a whole HVAC air duct where you can actually fit in. I would even switch out the air filter. I don't even know how long ago this was, but and most homes I lived in didn't have that, but moved so often as a kid. Probably 12 or 14 times. I don't know if I ever mentioned that, but yeah, I moved around a lot as a kid. Anyways, back to the story. Yeah, hide and seek is fun. If you're disconnected from the server, let's just go with that, plucked into a dead pocket server, maybe you switch universes for some reason. It does happen frequently. Maybe quantum immortality doesn't have to involve death. That could be a flaw in our thinking, or at least my thinking as I'm describing it, that you have to die to switch universes. Maybe not. Maybe there's a reason why. It's almost like in video games where there's an auto balance system where you switch teams if the other team is lacking players. Maybe it's sort of like that. Not really as a team game, but just if one server has too many players, too many people, how those are even initiated in, like births and stuff like that, how are new souls connected, or more about players in the real world selecting which server to go on. If too many are selecting a specific one because it's just more popular for its parameters, then maybe you have to switch. Maybe some people will have to be switched out. And I guess as long as it's seamless, and probably usually is, Sometimes it involves these dead pocket servers where almost no one else is around. I don't think you're supposed to be aware of being there, but sometimes it doesn't go according to plan. That's just my gut instinct. Case file number 3368, written by Medium Interesting. Goal scored by magic. In my late teens, I was hanging out with some friends at the playground, and we did various sports challenges for fun. One of them was to throw a frisbee into a football goal from a distance. It was a regular-sized frisbee, and the goal net was woven with tight squares. When I did my throw, the frisbee went straight through the net and landed on the grass a few meters behind the goal. My two friends were standing close to me. We all started looking at each other in disbelief. How did the frisbee get through the net? We spent a solid 10 minutes inspecting every square on the net and trying to squish the frisbee in all kinds of angles through the holes without getting close. We just continued with other challenges after and never spoke about it again. It was over 10 years ago, but I still sometimes randomly think about it, trying to find a logical explanation, but nothing whatsoever comes to mind. So I just want to mention real quickly that quantum tunneling is a real process. I think I've described this a few times, but it's where subatomic particles usually, electrons most notably, sometimes protons and neutrons, can, due to probability clouds, tunnel from one location to another, very small distances, but effectively it's teleportation. By all practical means of description, this is how fusion even happens in the sun, and it also happens in USB sticks and memory storage devices. We intentionally cause it to happen, which is remarkable if you think about it. But yeah, in short, teleportation is an entirely real phenomenon, just at the microscopic quantum scale. If you're looking at a large object like this, the odds drop so drastically, never reach zero technically, but so low that a frisbee would phase through solid matter. Yeah, makes you wonder, can something else induce it? We can control quantum tunneling at its tiniest level, but could something else control it at the macroscopic level? That would be fascinating. Case file number 3369, written by Blundered in One. Breakfast was a mistake. Last night I bought a 6x5 tray of 30 eggs. When I got home, I realized one egg was broken. The carton was compostable, so I cut out the damaged section, threw the broken egg away, cooked one egg in front of everyone in the kitchen, and went to bed with 28 eggs left in the tray. There is absolutely no chance I used an extra egg from the fridge or miscounted at that point. We had 0 eggs at home. This morning I used 2 more eggs to make an omelet. That left 26 eggs in the tray. The tray sits under a table shelf in the kitchen. We cleaned the kitchen earlier, swept and mopped the area around the tray, and the floor was completely spotless. No spills, no residue, nothing. A little later, we suddenly noticed a fresh splatter of raw egg on the floor near the tray. It looked like at least 1 whole egg's worth of contents. There was no shell anywhere. We checked the tray again and it still had 26 eggs. We are certain the floor was cleaned 10 minutes before, so the egg appeared in that short window. We decided to transfer the eggs into another tray to count them again. 3 of us did it together, placing each egg in the second tray one at a time. We counted 24 eggs, not 26. That alone was confusing. Then we moved the eggs back into the original tray, and somehow they filled all 26 spots again. To make it stranger, the other tray only has 25 slots. After putting the eggs in it, only 1 slot was empty, even though the numbers made no sense. None of us are on any substances. Our home is well ventilated and regularly checked for gas leaks or anything that could affect perception. At this point, the whole situation feels surreal, and it's just eggs, but I think I have to call it a day and try not to think about it anymore. Case file number 3370, written by Historical Cap 3704. An owl looked back. I go hiking by myself, and often with my headphones on. I go to a place about 10 to 15 minutes from my house that has several trails. I have been visiting this place for about 8 years. It has 2 main roads that go in an infinity symbol, and all of the hiking trails lead back to the road. It's got to the point where I just pick a random trail and I know I'll always end up back on that road. I've done almost every single trail in this place, so there isn't anything I haven't seen before. I believe in portals and will often play around with the elements when I'm hiking. If the wind picks up and I'll talk to her, or if the trees wave, I'll wave back. I've very much intentionally taken a stick and placed it in front of me, and I've jumped over to jump into a new reality. I have many stories where I know where I'm going, and somehow end up on a completely different path. My favorite one is where I just decided to go on a random path, not necessarily a trail, but close enough to where I could keep myself oriented, and I stumbled upon a really old cottage. I thought it was so strange, like it hadn't even been touched in decades. No signs of recent squatters or any modern activity. I was so confused. The cottage itself was like a sepia color, and it didn't match the bright green summer foliage that surrounded it. Checked it out for a little bit, but honestly, I was spooked and afraid someone was in there, but I could see paper on this desk that had tarnished over time, that had dust settled that honestly looked like it hadn't been touched since it was placed there. The reason why that stood out to me was because if you were to find this place and sleep here for the night, the desk was right by the entrance and would be the first thing you touch or put your things on. I don't know, it was just strange. Later, when I got home, I looked up the area to see if this cottage was on the map anywhere, and I couldn't find it or find anything mentioning it. I've also asked other people that are very familiar with the area, and they've seen it too. Another fun story to share. I went to the same woods one time, really upset, and just needed a place to disconnect and cry it out. I didn't go far, but for some reason I saw 2 fallen trees that made perfect X on the ground, and I thought that was peculiar, so I decided to sit there and meditate. I very quickly felt a presence around me, and when I looked around to see what it was, there was a gray owl perched in the trees right above my head. It was staring at me the entire time. Because I am who I am, I created a space to talk to this being. He didn't say any words, but there was an iridescent-like tunnel that was created between me and this owl. He was studying my energy the same way I was studying his. Case file number 3371, written by Birthday BIH. Sewing with Supervision. Last night, I was sitting at my desk sewing up some holes in a cashmere sweater for my mom. After I snipped the thread, I accidentally dropped the needle and heard it clink on the floor. I spent a solid 5 to 10 minutes looking for it, checking the whole floor area, the desk itself, underneath the machine, and the sweater, in case it just got caught in there. I could not find this thing anywhere. It essentially disappeared. I shrugged it off because something as small as a needle can get lost pretty easily. Maybe stick between the floorboards, and I didn't think much of it. I got home from work today and walked into my living room, and in the corner of my eye, I saw it. That exact needle, but now it's sitting directly on the center of my desk. It looked as if it was carefully placed in the most noticeable spot. When I tell you I looked everywhere, I really did. I live alone, so it's not possible for someone else to have found it and placed it on the table. Case file number 3372, written by Treat Mayit, Station X. I was out in the city yesterday and getting the train home. Got on the train at Station X. I know for sure that I was at Station X because I bought a ticket and I know the area well. I got on the train and looked up when I got to stop Y. All good. I looked down at my phone for about 5 minutes. I looked up at the screen, wondering how close I was to my destination. The screen says, "Next destination, stop X." I thought, oh, the screen is glitching. Then we pull up at stop X. To be clear, this is the stop I got on at. Hello? I stay on the train, now very confused. But by far the weirdest part is, no one else looks confused at all, or bothered in the slightest. The stop after that was stop W, which makes no sense because that's in the total opposite direction. I had to get off this one and take the next one heading back in the direction it was going the first time I got on. What the hell? So trains to me kind of feel like elevators, if you know you know. There's so many glitches involving trains where the weirdest part about it for me is where glitches happen on a train. Maybe the train turns around, in this case, or there's a time anomaly, but no one else on the train notices or acts like no one else. Is it just the fact that everyone's scared and doesn't want to, seem like they're crazy or anything? So because of that, no one says anything? I don't know. That's possible, but something seems off about that explanation. It's almost like people on the train are holograms or something, or not real in the classical sense, but that's another explanation that I don't know what to make of it. All I know is trains. If you know, you know. Case file number 3373, written by Practice Theory, Snow and Salt. Very low stakes, but I'm tweaking out about it. I've lived in a 4-unit apartment building for close to 10 years now, and the winter routine has always been the same. Rock salt is provided in a 5-gallon bucket, and I'm the one that uses it. If it gets low, they take the entire bucket and replace it with a new one. Last year, an odd tenant moved in, and over the course of having conflict with another tenant, decided that he didn't want to use anything provided by the landlord, so he bought his own bag of rock salt. He's the only other person that's gotten involved with dealing with snow and ice. When he moved, he left the bag behind, and I put it in the stairwell for the next winter. It had a Roadrunner on it, very distinct. During the snow, 2 weeks ago, I finally got a chance to use up the bag. I had considered refilling the bag because it was easier to spread in an even layer than using the hard plastic cups, but ultimately decided my hands were too cold to bother and that it wasn't worth the clutter. I definitely threw the bag away and finished up salting with the cup. 15 minutes ago, I went outside to access the basement, seldom done during winter, and there was a Roadrunner bag in the exact same spot, half full and open, exactly as it was before I used it. I know my neighbors, and I know they wouldn't have bothered. There's absolutely no explanation for why that bag is back, as if I never used it. I'm going to make a point of getting rid of it during the next snow, and hopefully it stays gone. Case file number 3374, written by Skywatcher1234. Lost in the Spin Cycle. One afternoon, I was washing some towels and a bath mat in my washing machine. Threw them all in the dryer just like usual. When I went to take them out of the dryer, the bath mat was gone. Since rarely does anything weird ever like that happen to me, I was gobsmacked. I felt around in that dryer, looked back in the washer, looked up and down, high and low around the apartment, but was not to be found. My husband had been sitting in the family room doing his computer thing, and he is not a jokester and didn't play any joke on me. I was around him the whole time and he never got up during the whole washer and dryer incident. I told him what happened as I was muttering like a fool, and he decided to help me look around too, just to see if we could find the mat together. But nope, not to be found. Over the weekend, he washed our bed sheets and pillowcases. He put them in the wash, then put them in the dryer like usual. I'm sitting out in the family room when I hear him yell, "Oh my God, come over here, you've got to see this." I went to the laundry area that's in our kitchen nook area, and he was holding the dryer door open. The bath mat was right in between some of our sheets, so somehow it left the dryer and showed up back in the dryer after a couple more washes and several days. Like both he and I don't like to wash our bath mats with our bed sheets. We just wash them with the bathroom stuff like the towels. So it's not like we would have ever done this purposely. I don't think I will ever forget this weird incident as long as I live. Case file number 3375, written by Irish Gardener 14. Notes from a polite haunting. I live in a haunted house, and the ghost leaves me little gifts. I went to bed one night and shut off the light in my kitchen, and got up the next morning, and as I walked into the kitchen, something bright blue caught my eye over to the left. It was a perfect little origami. A swan, absolutely perfect, and it was bright blue. I know it wasn't there when I went to bed the night before, and nobody was in my house but me. It just appeared. A friend of mine came to visit, and I was preparing her room, and I had 2 of those angel statues. Everybody has one. I had 2 of them sitting on the dresser, and all of a sudden, this little glass donkey appeared between them. It's about 1 inch high and maybe a 1/2 inch long. I've never seen it before in my life, and all of a sudden it was just sitting there, between the two angels. I thought maybe it was a gift toy for my friend from them, but she didn't want anything to do with it. But she's been here before when things have happened. That's the only two things this ghost, whatever it is, has left me so far. But that just started about a month and a half ago. They do lots of other things, but gift giving is the most fascinating thing they do. Case file number 3376, written by Ryan Johnson Jackson. It leaned out of the smoke. I saw this at 16, possibly 17, given the month. I've never done any drugs and didn't start drinking until 26. The others weren't doing anything. This involves me and 4 other people. A week or so prior to the event, my friend was driving and suddenly told me he couldn't control the car. We had just come off a light and he was going between 20 and 30 miles per hour. The steering wheel and brakes had no effect because of wet leaves. We had an entire crash prep conversation before we hit a tree head on. The AC vent imprinted on my knee for weeks. The crash left the headlights cross-eyed and aiming at the trees. Likely illegal to drive, but he was. It was fall 1993. I'm not sure if it was September or October. It was Pleasantville, New York. We had just picked up our girlfriends, who were friends, and our friend F was in the back. So the car layout was B driving and his girlfriend in the front passenger. Me behind B, driver's side back. My girlfriend center back, and our friend F back passenger seat. We were bored and didn't have a plan. One of us said, "Let's just drive," and I think I picked the direction. A very important landmark is the Pizza Hut, no longer there, in Pleasantville, New York. We make a turn from there and went into the normal neighborhood roads. We were driving for a bit, made another turn, and then the asphalt below us was suddenly new. Keep in mind the headlights were cross-eyed and aiming at the trees. It was probably around 5 or 6 p.m., and the ground level was darker than it should be. I looked off into the woods and noticed none of the trees had branches for maybe 10 feet up from the ground, going back a few hundred yards. There were no bushes or other foliage on the ground above the grass. This is not normal here. I have not seen that before and since, except in Europe. I recall mentioning, "What the fluck is up with the woods? Did they cut all the branches off?" So the road was new. The woods were weird, and then I noticed there was only a house every once in a while, maybe 500 yards. In between each house was a streetlight, in a very unpopulated area that's also weird. The mailboxes were on the other side of the street, which was also odd. We could not drive fast due to how the road raised and drastically curved frequently, which also seemed odd. I started looking out the front right of the windshield and saw a weird gray smoke. As we got closer and started to curve away from it, it seemed when parallel to it, it looked about 9 inches in depth and 4 feet high, but maybe 4 feet off the ground. As we curved more, it was 4 or so feet wide and a whirlpool with different color circle area in the middle, darker. As we passed it, a being leaned out at me. It had no face, but felt like it did. Its sleeves were like wizard sleeves. It looked like absolute black with almost a Hellraiser-style suit on, and its face was covered. I felt pissed that it could see me. It pumped its torso at me, leaned into the whirlpool. It closed and turned into smoke that dissipated. Here's why I believe I saw it. I said nothing. I thought I must be hallucinating and stayed quiet and looked out the other window. About 10 seconds later, my friend F said, "Hey, everybody, wouldn't it be funny if I saw the Grim Reaper?" I turned to him and said, "Did you just see the Grim Reaper? I just saw the Grim Reaper." It looked like it. He said with concern, "Uh-huh." Then B, the driver, stopped the car. I yelled, "Don't stop!" and he gunned the gas. I yelled, "Don't speed!" The girls were Catholic and started praying. We only almost ran into a plastic trash can in the street, but left that road, and that was that. Now with all this alien news, I wonder if it was either a time travel thing or an alien thing. I originally thought it was just something more mythical. Portals were in movies back then, but not as popular as now. I don't think my friend F remembers it, which is pretty weird. I want to point out that this was almost like a drive-through experience. It was that close, and how we drove by it was similar. So what I saw was very detailed and close. Impossible to mistake for something else. It was clear and vivid. Also, the drive back was uneventful. So I didn't always hate cheese. I say this because Pizza Hut, I used to love their buffets. Anyone else old enough to remember that? Where you would go to a sit-down restaurant in Pizza Hut and they had a buffet of pizza. You could just go, select which one you wanted, and eat as much as you wanted. Unlimited pizza. And when I could tolerate, I never liked cheese, but I could tolerate it. That was heaven. Something about the vibe, and also the pizza I remember tasting very different. It has, it had a more potent flavor. I don't know how to describe it. Anyways, by your description of the foliage and trees and everything, it almost sounds like you were transported with your friends in your car to Europe. A small village there. But then what the hell does the Grim Reaper, so-called, have to do with any of that? Did this entity that appeared to you and everyone else in the car as a Grim Reaper? Or maybe the classical Grim Reaper is simply people seeing this figure and they thought, okay, this is an entity that's causing malaise to people. So they associate that with the Grim Reaper, but maybe it's just an entity that looks like something terrifying but really isn't. I mean, he didn't harm anyone there, but not that I would feel comfortable seeing it. Let's be clear about that. And a space-time portal could result in this transportation effect. Normally not so far, talking about across an entire ocean. And you mentioned aliens, which I think could be related to space-time portals. Maybe they're placing them there in tandem with our government. Did you see not the Grim Reaper, but the Grim Alien? Now time for the jokes of the day. Mary gave birth to Jesus, and Jesus was a lamb of God. So does that mean Mary had a little lamb? If Farmer A sells apples and Farmer B sells bananas, what does Farmer C sell? Medicine. Why is Cyclops in charge of the X-Men? Because Professor X made him a supervisor. Contains that energy in his eyes. A man has been stealing wheels off cop cars. The police are working tirelessly to catch him. What do you call a herd of sheep falling down a hill? A landslide. Video up here, YouTube thinks you'll like it, check it out. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. I'll see you next time.